Welcome, fellow film fanatics. So we got some big news earlier this week that we wanted to get together and talk about. So if you haven't heard, WB, Warner Brothers, has actually come out and let everyone know that they have 17 movies slated for 2021 that will actually be released on HBO Max in concurrence with their release into theaters. So we wanted to get together and talk about it because there is potentially a lot that comes along with that decision.
Implications.
Or maybe no implications. We don't know. So we're going to talk about it today. So again, if you haven't heard, these releases that are going to make it into HBO Max, it's going to be for one single month. And then it's going to follow the normal release schedule. So for example, you're going to get to see movies like potentially The Matrix at the same time on HBO Max as in theaters. It's going to be up to you how you want to see it. It's going to last on HBO Max for the first month and then follow the normal release schedule. So again, there's a lot that comes with that. One of the things that I wanted to get into was talking about how you take that news, right? Yeah. This is potentially huge news. How do you take news like this?
Well, the theaters are pissed.
That they are.
That's the first thing I think about. I know AMC CEO, he came out, felt like within the hour, and made a statement about how pissed he was. But understandably so. I mean, this is something that, in my opinion, will change the way we experience movies going forward.
Yeah.
I mean, it just feels like all these studios are playing chess with one another. You know, like Disney Plus, they made the decision, we're going to put Mulan up for 30 extra bucks, which is a conversation for another day. But, you know, they did that. And then people were pissed because I don't know if you know this, but immediately, maybe a couple weeks after they did that, they then went and essentially put Mulan out on digital distributors.
Yes. And understandably, that made some people upset who had just paid $30 to see Mulan in advance.
And they don't own it.
And they don't own it.
Yeah. They get access to Mulan as long as they have Disney Plus, whereas you can purchase it through Amazon or Google Play, and you actually own it.
Yeah.
For the same price. So, but that's a conversation.
That's a hard sell.
Right. And
to
so,
a customer.
Yeah. So, and then after that, they said, we're going to put Soul on Disney Plus for free on Christmas.
Yeah.
And then, a lot of other streamers, they've made the decision to forego theaters and put their movies on streaming services as well. Like Coming to America was sold to, was it Amazon? I think Coming to America was sold to. So there are a lot of movies that are getting sold to streaming services. And now it feels like Warner Brothers made the ultimate move. This feels like this is groundbreaking.
Yeah.
To put 17 movies that were supposed to be released in theaters onto a streaming service, I don't know how movie theaters stay in business.
Yeah, and it would even be potentially a little bit different if these were smaller properties, independent movies. I mean, these are huge titles upcoming for 2021. So I think one of the biggest things for me as I take all this is one of the things that the chairman of WB came out and said is basically, I think the quote is, it's not clear that full normal will return even well into the fourth quarter of next year. So, and what I continued to read is the fact that they did a lot of research, a lot of crunching the numbers to determine we might not be back to full normal a year from when we're shooting this video right now, right? Yeah. So that's something I think even just beyond that touches all of the film industry, which is insane to me.
Yeah, I think
that's even with the vaccine.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad for the theaters from a business perspective. One, even though I'm sad about the theaters losing money and revenue, if you're Warner Brothers, if you're AT&T, this is kind of a brilliant move. I mean, I know me and you talked about it, and immediately I saw the little teaser they put out, showing all of their properties that are going to be coming to HBO Max, and my mind immediately went to, oh, I'm sold. I'm in.
And I feel like for the customer, it's going to be a win because what they're saying is, because we're releasing it only for a month, you can still see it in the theater if you want to. you don't have to watch it on HBO Max, but a few of my friends that I've spoken to, they are definitely going to watch it on their HBO Max. I'm the kind of guy who I crave the theater experience, and I don't know whether that's too old school. I know maybe I'm behind the times, but there are certain movies on that slate. We're talking Dune, we're talking Matrix 4 that's coming out, and those are some things that I would consider paying to see in the theater, depending on what kind of screens they're releasing them on. So the cool thing is it's giving customers the choice. So I'll be interested to see the repercussions of, at this time next year, what will that choice have been? Are we going to make any money in the theaters, or is everybody going to watch it directly on HBO Max? That's something that I think, again, not only WB, but everybody in the industry is going to be watching for.
Yeah, I think with Warner Brothers, the fact that they own HBO Max is a huge driver for them. I mean, you look at Netflix. Netflix only owns a percentage of the content they put out. Everything else is licensed through other distributors, other companies. So, that's why Netflix loses so much money every year, right? They have to buy content to put on their platform. Disney Plus, they own their content outright. They don't have to buy content from anybody. HBO Max, everything that's on there, to my knowledge at least, is AT&T, HBO Max, Warner. That's their content. They own that content.
It's an easier decision.
It's all profit.
It's cut out the middleman.
It's all profit. Yeah. Plus, I heard HBO Max, they got rid of their free trial. So you have to go, you go in starting with Wonder Woman, you subscribe, and people who may think, oh, I'm just going to unsubscribe the next month. It's like, oh, well, actually, next month Mortal Kombat comes out. I kind of want to see that. You watch Mortal Kombat. Okay, well, next month I'm going to unsubscribe. Well, actually, next month the Suicide Squad comes out. So I kind of got to stay subscribed. Their calendar is booked for the next year.
Yeah.
And, for me personally, I'm going to be subscribed. I mean, right now, especially for families on a budget, when you look at the value that each streaming service adds, if I'm deciding over Disney Plus and HBO Max, I'm picking HBO Max right now.
Yeah.
Disney, they have, and I get it, coronavirus happened, but at the same time, they haven't been able to deliver on what their promise was to consumers when they first launched, right? When they first launched, what was it, at D23, they announced all these shows, they announced all this content that was going to come out, and we've gotten 2 seasons of The Mandalorian of premium content.
Which is enough to keep me subscribed.
And,
but I can tell you, for the casual moviegoer, just like you said, I've spoken to a few people who are kind of like, sometimes I watch HBO Max with friends or family, but hearing the news is all good for them, right? Again, they're casual moviegoers. They don't necessarily care about the theater experience. They just want to see movies. So for them, they're like, you know what? This is enough. I'm going to subscribe to HBO Max. And I know it's been pretty well documented that HBO Max hasn't really had the takeoff that it wanted. So this could be a move that kind of helps satisfy several different things. I mean, though I think part of the quote in the story was it doesn't really do anybody any good with these movies on the shelf. So at least it gets these movies out. And for me, again, it's one of those things, I hear that news and I'm like, oh, is that the death knell for theaters? And I hope not, because again, one of the points in this story for me is right now they're saying it's a 1-year plan. Right. I know. And I will be interested to see if this plan is effective. Will it work? Right. One, for them. Yeah. And then will the rest of the industry take notice, the other studios, and say, you know what? Disney Plus is already committed to, upping their streaming. Is this going to be across the board? So my question to you, Ryan, is do you think the other studios will follow suit? And if they do you think they're going to wait it out? Or do you think we're going to get an announcement in a couple weeks or in January that says everything's going to streaming for everyone?
Well, okay. So number one, I always put a caveat on this thing. It's a 1-year plan. Yeah. If we don't make money, right? Like that's when it becomes a 1-year plan.
Wait, are you saying the film industry is a business?
Oh, it's a business.
What a concept.
Yeah. I mean, if it makes money, if their subscriber base grows to what Disney Plus is or Netflix is, why would they not continue to do this?
Yeah.
Especially when they own all of the content. And it's just profit.
So you think films like Black Widow, The Eternals that is coming out next year, you think Disney's going to say, hey, this works. We've seen it in the first quarter or first 2 quarters. Let's bring everything on board.
If Disney wants to continue driving subscribers, I don't see how you don't do that. Again, I'm coming from the perspective of, you have a family that has, you're on a budget, right? You have some families that they only have one streaming service, right?
Yeah.
And if we're going into next year and we have to look at, what money looks like, honey, it's between Disney Plus or HBO Max. What do we want to go with? Well, I mean, up until this point, Disney Plus, they've only given us this. I mean, we already have cable. We already have the Disney Channel.
Yeah.
I mean, why? Let's just get HBO Max. I mean, I think the thing with HBO, I think HBO already has a very loyal customer base.
Yeah.
Right. I've been watching HBO.
And I mean, they have quality content.
They have their
already.
HBO.
And now we're just adding top tier properties.
I have
to that.
said this. I think HBO has always had top tier quality content, especially their shows and their series. Right. I think they've had a problem with some of their brands. They've had HBO Go, HBO Now, HBO, the DC streaming service they had. Now they have HBO Max, right? And so you have all these people that have HBO, and now you're telling them there's HBO Max. If I'm looking at it from the outside, I'm like, well, I have HBO. Like, what's HBO Max? Why do I need to? Right? And now what they're doing, it incentivizes people to go in and get inside HBO Max and see what they really have to offer.
And I think the biggest selling point for them is it is at no additional fee. You don't have to pay $30 to see it at home at the same time it's released in theaters. You have the choice to pay a little bit for the theaters. Some, depending on where you live, potentially pay a lot and on different formats. Or I can sit at home and continue to watch it on HBO Max for free. Or if I don't own HBO Max, I test it out for a month or two and wow, I've got all these properties. And I think the biggest thing that's been interesting for me is I think The Matrix, I believe, comes out in December of 2021. We're talking a full year from now. So they have put the gauntlet down. They are firmly entrenched in saying we are projecting 1 year in advance, even with a vaccine coming out. We don't think the film industry or the theater industry is going to be anything like it is or was before, at least until fourth quarter of next year. So I think that's the most surprising part for me is I can understand maybe the first 2 to 3, maybe even the first half of next year. Let's do that and then wait and see. HBO said, or WB says, let's go ahead and we go full stop. Everything in 2021 is going to HBO Max. So that by far for me is the most surprising part, most intriguing part. And honestly, it kind of signals some things if we're already firmly entrenched in saying everything, all the biggest properties are going there no matter what happens.
Well, let me tell you, I think one of the most intriguing things is they're not just releasing their big films, right? They're releasing some of their more smaller budget films. They're they're releasing Tom and Jerry, right? They're releasing things onto HBO Max that maybe in theaters a lot of people wouldn't have went and seen anyways. But now
that's very true.
Now you have people they're pulling up their HBO Max account, something that they already pay for. Why not sit down and watch Tom and Jerry? Why not sit down and watch some of these smaller budget films in addition to the bigger ones, right? So in that sense, look, we're not going to make money on this or that. Why don't we just throw it on HBO Max and have it help us pick up subscribers, right? Content's king, right? And library is really all that matters. So I think very shortly we're gonna see movies going to streaming from other studios. I can see Disney Plus and Disney. They've already come out and said that their strategy is to continue to move their content more towards Disney Plus. That's what their strategy is moving forward. So I am just counting down the days until they say, yep, Black Widow's going to Disney Plus. Yep, The Eternals is going to Disney Plus. All these movies that we plan to be theatricals, all that stuff's going to Disney Plus. And other studios that don't have their own streaming service, I can see them getting in deals with Netflix or Amazon to sell those movies off and go more digital.
And I can tell you from my standpoint, it's going to be something that, for movies like, again, I'm going to go back to Dune, Matrix 4. Those are things that, depending on how things shake out, even with HBO Max, I still want to see those on the big screen, right? If I can get that IMAX experience or Dolby IMAX experience, I'm such a film fan that I want to see those in the theater. So I'll be interested to see how everything shakes out. I know, WB, HBO Max, they're going to be looking at the numbers all throughout the year. So I think in that first quarter or the first half of next year, we'll really kind of see where things are headed. So I think we're in a good spot as far as just kind of looking at everything as a whole. So what we want to know from you guys in our film community is, are you going to continue to watch these movies, or are you planning to watch these movies in 2021 on HBO Max, or are any of you actually going to go out and give the theater an attempt on how things are going? So we'll see. So if you like what we're doing here, again, continue to like and subscribe if you like this content, and we'll see you next time.
Appreciate it, everybody.